Global and earning jitters keep the street muted with Nifty below the 24,000 mark. Broader indices also see cuts of about 1% each, with the wicks elevated. All sectors are under pressure, with IT and pharma leading the losses.
And Infosys is under pressure after a soft Q4 and weak guidance, with multiple brokerages cutting target prices, citing lower growth and margin headwinds. Constant currency revenue declined sequentially for Infosys in the fourth quarter.
And LTI Mindtree declined after the muted Q4, with constant currency growth slightly below the estimates and margins impacted by wage hikes and productivity commitments. Brokerages remain divided.
Bari Energies is under pressure today after the US imposed steep tariffs of over 120% on solar imports. The move targets a large portion of US solar supply and raises concerns over export-driven growth for Indian players.
IPS Health's proposed acquisition of TrueBridge is seen as a strategic pivot into the high-margin recurring SaaS-led EHR space. The deal strengthens its presence across the healthcare continuum and enhances its AI-led data capabilities.
Reliance is expected to report mixed Q4 with revenue growth led by retail and telecom, but margins are likely to come under pressure due to weakness in the O2C and oil and gas segments. Meanwhile, Jio is likely to see steady growth supported by ARPU expansion and subscriber additions.
Meanwhile, Shriram Finance and L&T Finance are likely to deliver a robust quarter with healthy NII growth, margin expansion and improving return ratios. IndusInd Bank could also show a gradual recovery in profitability, aided by lower provisions.
Hello and a warm welcome. You've joined us on Buy Now, Sell Now right here on ET Now. I'm Ashish Adhwari. With me is Ankita Saxena. And turning out to be a soft day for Indian equity markets. Nifty is now down more than 1% in today's trading session. In fact, it is declining more than 250 points as we speak. It has slipped below the 24,000 mark yet again. Nifty Bank, that one is outperforming as compared to the Nifty, but despite that, that index is also down more than 350 points in today's trading session. In terms of individual stocks that are in focus, we have a whole host of counters which are in focus, especially from the IT pack. We have Infosys, that stock is down 5% in trade today, the biggest Nifty 50 loser, followed by HCL Tech and Tech Mahindra, both of them down more than 3.5% in trade today. Clearly, IT stocks continue to remain under pressure today. Infosys reported its numbers yesterday, but we had negative guidance, and the street clearly is not excited with the kind of guidance that it has given, and that is the reason all of these IT counters continue to remain in focus. On the gaining side, though, we have Coal India. That stock is up more than 1% in trade today. Bajaj Auto, Grasim, Nestle, Aisha. These are a couple of other gainers from the Nifty 50 pack in an otherwise very weak market. Other than that, in terms of other sectoral gainers, let's also put the spotlight on a couple of other counters that are gaining in trade. In fact, we have Coal India that is gaining in trade, but other than that, a couple of other counters continue to remain under pressure. We have IT clearly, which is seeing immense pressure in today's trading session. But let's get going then, and let's take a look at everything that is happening in the futures and options space. And let's take a look. Sajid is now joining us with FNO 360, which is powered by 5paisa.
Thank you, Ashisha, for that. Let's look at what's happening in the FNO market with the index Nifty below the 24,000 mark. The Nifty futures is active with the premium of nearly 13 points as we speak. The Nifty down over 1%, and the April futures is seeing a marginal uptick in the open interest position. But the story is happening in the Nifty May futures, where there's a hectic increase in open interest position as a result of the rollovers which is underway. Where there the premium is nearly 119 points as of now. Nifty Bank again down in today's trade 0.6%. It has come off day's low a bit, with premium at nearly around 60 point and open interest up nearly 1.16. But again here we're going to see some rollovers happening to the May futures there, where the May futures is open interest is up nearly 10.89% because of the rollovers which is happening. Look at the constituents. We're seeing good activity happening in SGFC Bank. Some long long buying coming in as a result of the rollover. Remember, for the SGFC Bank, we are seeing not only the May futures active, but there is an active increase in open interest happening in the June futures, and that's one thing which needs to be kept in mind. ICICI Bank Axis is seeing some kind of short build-up happening. SBI is seeing some long build-up, which is there. There's a long unwind happening across the board with some of the stocks like PNB, Kotak, and IndusInd Bank, and Bank of India. Look at what's happening in the call and put writers. 24,000 being the most active, with call writers being the most active in 24,000 level. There is a gradual build up happening at 23,900, with some support now gradually building up at 23,800 for the Nifty. If you look at the distribution chart for the April 28 expiry, you'll see 24,000 now clearly becoming a good resistance for the market at this point in time. 23,900 and 23,800 is where the put operators are holding the position. Look at what's happening in the futures gainers. You have Cochin Shipyard, Hudco, and Oil India all up on the back of the shorts which are getting covered. There is a rollover for these stocks also happening as we speak. Futures loser have LTM because of the earnings which were disappointing, down 5%. Coforge is down 4.85%, and Infi is down 4.65%. So a bad day for IT in the market. If you look at open interest gainers, you have CG Power with some shorts getting built up. Cipla is seeing some short build up happening, and MCX is seeing some short build up happening with between 9 and 12% jump in open interest position. Open interest losers include Firma Pharma, where we are seeing a short covering, and open interest down nearly 12%. RVNL and JSW Energy are seeing long unwinding with open interest down nearly 10 to 11% there. Most active today in the stock options, INFI 1300 April call is the most active as of now, 4.36 lakh open interest position, stock hovering around 1180 odd rupees, and that will also give you an indication of the most active put, which is at 1200 April for Infosys, where the premium is up nearly 8 rupees, and there's an unwind of position which is happening as we speak, down nearly 6.26 lakh contracts. So we are in a situation where we have a resistance coming in at 24,000, and there are a lot of call writing happening at 23,900 and 23,800 with another few hours to go before the market ends today.
All right, Sajid, thank you so much for joining us with the roundup of the FNO 360. But let's talk about the Union Bank also. That is reported its Q4 numbers. It's a mixed set coming in, with PAT rising 6.5% on a year-on-year basis and operating profit showing strong sequential momentum. However, the weak core income, margin pressure and higher provisions have weighed on the sentiment, even as the asset quality improved with lower NPAs. Let's talk to Ankur Mishra, who's caught up with the management on the way forward for the bank. Here's an excerpt of that conversation.
I think, yes, we are very much, concerned about that, and we are having watchful of that. So when you say that it is highest ever profit and other parameters, even other parameters which we see are one of the best during the times when the Union Bank had. So I believe when we talk about the NIA, there is a bit drop. But let us see one thing, that, these results are actually the very ground level working of last 6 months. The second half.
Since you have taken over.
Yes. So first half was a bit muted one. And when I am saying it is muted one, so there was a drop of almost, if we take March Q4 of 25 levels of NIM, then from there it was a drop of 700 crores. And this last half which we have built by 600 crores. Now if we take, this is one, the another one is February 24, there was a rate cut. And then since then it is more than 1% rate cut is there if you take April and then December. Right. So if we take 1% rate cut, and if we take the muted position of the first half, now the second half, if you see the Q3, and if we take, observe the Q4, the growth in the business is more than 6.5% in various parameters, including deposit. Right. Now if we take that, so it means that this last Q3 and Q4, we have tried to cover for the entire year. Now, keeping this in view, if we take the NII position, So we are around 1.4% down. But I think certainly it has the transmission of the repo rate and other things. And because of the West Asia and other issues, the February and March you have seen the elevated deposit rates. So I think combined, if above everything we see, now if we compare to the NIM, which was 2.91 for March
yes, I was coming
25,
there. Right.
and now if you consider as of now 2.70, it is down by only 21%. And now why it has been? Because we have taken lot of measures on the efficiency, on the efficiency recoveries. So our slippages are much less than the recoveries. Around 4,500 crore gap is there, point number one. The point number two is that the CASA and retail term deposit, where the average cost comes somewhere below 5, is around 1,10,000 crore, which we have built in second half. Right. So like this various measures we have taken, and that is why you are seeing that though drop is there, but all the efficiency parameters are working well, and they have yielded into the better profits. So 5,316 crore of profit, and dividend is also increased. That is around 5 per share from 4.75, and all the asset quality parameters, SMA and the 95% above triple B in the 25 crore and above external rating loan book. And on the retail side, 700 and above, if you see, it is more than 99.8%. Right. So I think keeping in this view all, though there is a drop, but then I think if you see the quarter 4, we are in a position to increase from here.
Right. Let's also talk about how the year ahead lies for us. You spoke about net interest margins. There's a way to look at it the way you were describing in last 2 months particularly. But keeping the interest rate scenario in mind, the way a central bank has given the commentary, you think there is a scope of further improvement in net interest margins?
Yeah, as far as the Union Bank is concerned, when there was a transmission of 1% entire year, and when there is a transmission of 0.25 from 5th of December onwards, means entire quarter, and there were elevated deposit rates during February and March, and keeping in view all those things, it has not impacted to the extent it should have been impacted. Now we could defend. I think we have bottomed out that, and from here onwards we are endeavoring, and we will be in a position to both NII and NIM. We will be in a position to improve. That is the reason we are concentrating on CASA and retail term deposit rather than more on the bulk deposits.
Right. Talking about West Asia crisis, you also mentioned there is a bit of uncertainty currently. How are you seeing the situation on ground and the impact on business?
Yeah, I would say 2-3 things in general, not as a Union Bank. We have talked to a lot of customers and prospective A2B existing customers as well as new to the bank, and what we understand is there is a working capital cycle elongated because of the goods which were coming as an import through Hormuz Strait, and then now it is taking 35 to 45 days longer duration to reach the destination. So that is one. Second is the energy specific sectors, and certainly the crude has gone up. So it is, I believe it is more of a cost shock. So the cost is probably will increase, and the delay in the working capital cycle. So I think when seeing this, and then energy specific, which were on the gas, it was a last 1.5 month in the February, March, there was an issue on the gas side. So I think there are some clusters like Morbi, like ceramics and cement and all, which are not very big players. So there we have seen, yes, there was an impact. But now coming to Union Bank, our exposure, direct exposure to Middle East is around hardly 2,910 crores. So we do not have, by our monitoring each, we have not found any stress in those. And it is hardly 150 or 200, which is in SMA 01 only. So we have not seen any specific stress on those. The exposure is not good, but then we are monitoring entire exports and imports. The imports is, yes, remittances, and the total inward remittances are down, which we have seen. Probably it is a industry as well as perspective it would be. But then as of now, we have not seen, because the government of India as well as the Reserve Bank has come forward with various measures. And what has come in the Jan Samarth portal, out of that around 180, around 200, we have already sanctioned and disbursed. So we are keeping in line with that, and we are talking, and wherever the need is there felt, we are giving that sort of relief. Even in the RBI relief measures, we have received around 59 applications, and we have worked upon that. So I think as of now, we do not foresee as such that it is some stress, because already relief measures has come from Government of India and the Reserve Bank, and we all the banks are moving ahead in that.
Hello and welcome back. You tune in to Buy Now, Sell Now, a show where we get all your stock-specific questions answered. The number is flashing on top of your screen, so please start writing into us with your stock question, the buying price, the holding period, and we'll get them answered by our fundamental and our technical expert. So let's get going and take the first question that's coming in on WhatsApp. Satyaveni, who's writing in from Hyderabad, he says he's bought 1,190 shares of CESE at 199 and 98 shares of Electra Green at 1,798. What price can he average? Kunal, I'll come to you for this one. He's talking about CESE that he's bought at 199. Should he average in? And he's not given his holding period, but he's sitting at a loss on CESE. What should he do? What should be his strategy?
So I think for both CESE as well as Electra Greentech, I think you can just hold on to the stocks as of now. For CESE, I would recommend maybe an averaging price around 165, because that would probably coincide with the 200 DMA for CESE, which apparently is a good support for the stock in the recent past. And we've seen multiple times that whenever the stock has come back to that pivot support of 200 DMA, it's managed to just about fluctuate around those levels. For Electra Greentech, I think the 50 DMA level, which is around the 1100 mark, could act as a decent support point in case if you're looking to average further. But I think both these stocks apparently have good long-term charts. It's just that in the last, I think, many months, because of the way the markets have been poised, even these stocks have gone through a correction. I would recommend buying these stocks at their individual moving averages. For CESE, that would be around 165 levels, and for Electra Greentech, around 1100 mark.
Okay, so that's the view coming in on Electra Greentech, but let's get going then. Balaji has written to us from Bengaluru. He has about 100 shares of Alkyl Amines at 3250 and about 120 shares of Balaji Amines at 2925. What will your view be, Kunal, on both these counters? One is Alkyl Amines and the other is Balaji Amines.
See, both these stocks have fallen very sharply, so which means that they are last 4 years of chart, 4 or 5 years of chart from 2021 highs for themselves. These stocks have corrected more than 70%, if I'm not wrong, 70 or 80%, I think, from 5,000 levels. Example for Balaji Amines, the stock recently fell down to as much as 1,000, 1,100 mark. And I think similar is the price correction percentage for Alkyl Amines. So which means that the long-term charts are still quite negative for these names. The only positive which I can sense for names like Balaji Amines as well as Alkyl Amines is that you're seeing many of the specialty chemical stocks starting to see some signs of revival. If they go into maybe a multi-month revival phase, then there could be a phase where maybe over the next few months you might expect these stocks to go into a turnaround. And if there is a potential turnaround, then the stocks which have been beaten down significantly, they could recover the highest. So I think in that aspect, I would recommend a hold as of now, but just watch the space over the next couple of months. In case if there is a recovery in the entire space, then I would believe that it makes sense to try and trade your stop losses to the recent swing lows and then continue to hold up.
All right, so that's Kunal's view, but we are now joined by our fundamental guest, Avinash Gorakhshekar, who's the market expert, now joining us on the fundamentals. Hi, good morning, Avinash, and thank you so much for joining us. And let's get going with all the questions that are coming in for you as well. This is Mr. Gupta, who's writing in from Mumbai. He says he has Dhampur Sugars for 108 rupees, and he has 59 shares. There's LG Equipment also 36 shares at 579 rupees. He wants to know your view on this, but he has not given the holding period. But Avinash, I'll come to you. Let's talk about Dhampur Sugar. We do see some momentum that's picked up in the last 1 month. In fact, last 1 month it has really gained a lot of momentum. From here on, do you see this momentum to continue, say, for the next 6 months to 1 year? And what's your view on LG equipment as well?
No, I think Rampur sugar can be held on because recent reports indicate that the government wants to increase the percentage of ethanol in petrol. I think there have been some reports that current percentage of 21% could be hiked to even 100%. So I think this is good news for integrated players like Rampur Sugar because Rampur is also a large producer of ethanol. So I think to that extent, the momentum in the sugar stocks and Rampur Sugar could continue. We'll have to wait for some time, but yes, definitely this financial year, that is FY27, should be significantly better for Rampur. So I think he can hold on. My sense is it would take some time for the stock to get re-rated, but once this clarity is available on ethanol, I think you could see a very strong re-rating in the stock. So I think keep invested here.
Okay, stay invested. That's the view coming in on Dhanpur Sugar. But we have Krishna Kumar, who is now joining us on the phone line from Bangalore. Hi, sir. Take us through your question.
Hi, good morning, sir. My name is Krishna Kumar calling from Bangalore. I am holding 1,800 shares of Amara Raja batteries purchased at 760. Should I continue to hold or exit now?
Okay, so Amara Raja batteries, that's the question. The stock is down 3.5% today. 6 months to 1 year is the time frame. Kunal, your view on this counter?
See, if 6 months to 1 year is the time frame, then I would recommend a hold. Had it been just about for a few days, then my view could have been different. Because in the last, I think 3-4 years, what we've seen as a pattern for Amara Raja Energy and Mobility is that whenever the stock gives like a 10% or 15% upside for maybe in a matter of couple of days or in a matter of couple of weeks, post that there is at least a 3, 4, 5 days of price correction which the stock goes into. We call it as a mean reversion for the stock price. So that's one of the major concerns which happens into the stock price. Time and again we've seen this multiple times for Amara Raja. So that is one of the reasons why on the short term basis maybe the stock could look like that it's going to a corrective phase back again. But I sense that maybe closer to 800, 825 mark is where there could be ample supports for Amara Raja. So that I believe could be a good zone of support for the stock. And since you purchase at lower levels, I'll suggest a hold, and your time frame is also 6 months to 1 year.
All right.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Buy Now, Sell Now, and this is a show where we answer all your stock-specific queries. So keep sending them to us, and we'll try and answer as many as we can over the course of the next 30 minutes. We have Balaji, who has now joined us on the phone line. He's from Tamil Nadu. Sir, take us through your question.
Thank you. Good morning to all. First of all, I appreciate that I am regularly watching, taking my query and giving a very good response. I have bought 57 shares of HDFC Bank at the rate of 798. Today also it goes down to 777. Will it go further down or shall I buy at that lower level? Please suggest Mr. Kunal or Mr. Avinash. I am watching the TV.
Sure, we will do that. So HDFC Bank, Avinash, first up, your view on this counter?
No, I think my guess is, if the investor can hold on for the next 12 to 15 months, HDFC Bank has reported a decent set of numbers for Q4. The outlook has also been quite encouraging. But I think, for the stock to give a reasonable risk reward, I think the investor should stay invested for the next 12 to 15 months. We feel that FY27 should be significantly better. And I think hopefully, once the Indian economy takes off, I think we have a slightly better GDP number, then I think that would definitely give a boost to the banking sector. And HDFC Bank, being one of the largest banks, should definitely benefit. So stay invested and keep a time frame of 12 to 15 months.
Okay, and Kunal, what will your technical view be on HDFC Bank?
See, I'll recommend a hold since you're a long-term investor for HDFC Bank. It's going through a tough time on the short-term basis. Over the last 2 months, we saw the first round of a major correction for HDFC Bank, and we all know the reasons for that. I believe that price-wise, maybe I think if there is a retest to that 750 mark for HDFC Bank, that's a very good point where I would suggest that you can even consider to average out further for the stock price. So I'll recommend a hold since you're a long-term investor, but maybe I think below that 750 mark, if it trades back again, that's a point where I would consider that you can start looking to average further.
All right, so that's the view on HDFC Bank. Let's move on to our WhatsApp query. This is Sandranath, who's writing in from Hyderabad. He's asking, he's bought 1,200 shares of IDFC First at 85 rupees and 1,500 shares of IEX at 155. Should he hold or should he book losses? Kunal, I'll come to you. IDFC First at 65. He's sitting at a loss. What should be his strategy? And IEX at 155. There also, he's sitting at a loss. What should he do?
See, IDFC First Bank, I'll suggest to exit because, of the kind of sell-off the stock has shown. Even at current levels, it's struggling below the 200 DMA. Yes, it's recovered from the previous lows of 57, 58 approximately to now 67, 68. But this is a good enough bounce where I would suggest that you can try and take advantage of to either lighten up the positions or maybe try and exit the stock price. So you can start using the shorter-term rallies for IDFC First Bank from current levels to maybe 70. That's a point where I would suggest to exit. IEX, I'll suggest to hold on. I think it's a interesting phase for the stock price where it's come back towards a very sharp correction from its 2024 highs. I understand that the stock is very volatile. It's prone to a lot of news flow. It reacts quite significantly on the back of some news or clarifications here or there for the stock. But I think the long-term charts for IEX, and specifically I think at a point where the stock is right now 120.25, I think it's a good price point for the stock from a long-term investor perspective.
Okay, so that's the view coming in on IEX. But let's cut across to Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who is speaking at a press conference.
Over the decades, every time they've been up on the game. But now, because of the new challenge which is coming in the name of mythos, about which not much is known, not very many people have tested or tried, MeitY is an active engagement. The Ministry of Electronics and Telecommunications is an active engagement with various authorities, governments across the globe, and also with technology companies to understand how this is going to play out and what is the kind of preparedness we need in India. So yesterday's meeting was in that context. So all the while what we've had and therefore proved ourselves that we are careful and protective of our customers may not be sufficient. They need to be there, they need to improve, they need to grow. But we need something new and something far more versatile to be able to counter the newer threats which are likely to come. On that, I had a meeting with all the banks. MeitY Minister himself was present with me. Secretary, Department of Financial Services, Mr. Nagaraju, was also there. So actively now the banks have been told to work together. As Chairman IBA, Chairman of CMD State Bank of India will be leading that effort. And in the coming weeks, there will be a lot of interaction within the banks, understanding where more investments will have to be made, what kind of technologies can come in, how AI itself can be used for countering this AI-born challenge. Works are happening on that.
Ma'am, one question as far as the larger banking system and the distribution there is concerned, especially with respect to distribution of financial products. Do you think an open architecture is what is needed at this point of time, where banks should tie up with multiple insurance or mutual fund companies and not restrict to one, which is their promoted insurance company or mutual fund company? Do you think that is required for greater benefit?
These are things which the committee will be sitting and working under the IBA chairman, which is being formed, which is part of IBA itself. There's no new committee. Don't ask me, what's happened to that committee? There's no new committee. The IBA chairman with the IBA will be talking to banks to understand how best to go about it. What are the vulnerabilities? By keeping one, by keeping several, by having different vendors but not having some. So all these are going to be worked out.
मैम आपने बात की लेगेसी जो है इंडस्ट्रियल लेगेसी को रिवाइव करने की। मैम यहाँ पर एक और चर्चा चल रही है कि बहुत से बिजनेसेस जो अफेक्ट हुए हैं वेस्ट एशिया क्राइसिस की वजह से, भले ही वो एक्सपोर्ट इंपोर्ट से रिलेटेड हो या फिर ज़मीनी तौर पर भी अगर हम बात करें, कोई स्टॉल फूड स्टॉल है जो LPG क्राइसिस से हिट हुआ था, क्या उनको भी सरकार किसी तरह की राहत देने के बारे में विचार कर रही है?
See, I think you're clubbing so many different things together. On the LPG, continuous monitoring by a group of ministers headed by Sri Rajnath Singh is looking into it, and largely in this country, I think LPG is now being attended to every customer. If there are one or two who are having a problem, if it is brought to our notice, we are addressing it. LPG shouldn't be mixed up with this. If there were difficulties because of the US tariff, we brought in a system through which any affected party, to the extent that they are exposed to the US market, we will give support. And that was launched even last year. So that is taking care of that particular issue. Now, Middle East, because of Strait of Hormuz crisis, we'll see what best we can do. These are constantly moving challenges. You can't club all of them and say, oh, therefore. Each challenge is being addressed. Each challenge will be responded to.
Ma'am, FNO losses challenges that you addressed in your budget speech. Ma'am, going ahead also some sort of action we'll see on the FNO because there are a large number of people who are losing their money in FNO segment.
It is only on 1st February that I came up with one announcement. 1st April is when it's commencing the new year. And we are only on 24th.
24th of February.
24 days in the new year, in the new financial.
The high-level committee that you had mentioned in the budget in terms of
High-level committee for... Yes, I spoke about it now. You will get to know soon. Okay?
Will making large banks be a part of the TOR for the committee, or you just mentioned it's futuristic banking? So would it, because twice in your speech today...
Let's be clear. A TOR doesn't give you a solution. The TOR is given to the committee to say what you want us to do in order that we have banking which can address 2047. Can I put in my TOR, oh, large banks? I want the committee to say whether they want large banks, small banks, medium-sized banks. So my TOR should be giving them maximum space to think and tell us how best we can handle this.
Madam, just on...
Others can ask.
For IDBI, just any highlights you would like to give on the status of the disinvestment?
Which meant?
IDBI.
IDBI disinvestment will go on. You knew it was publicly announced as to why it had to halt.
Right.
We will still go on.
And for consolidation across the PSU bank space, anything that you would like to highlight?
At the moment, there's nothing for me to say because if there's a committee appointed, I'd go do the job which may or may not be recommended by the committee. We'll wait for the committee's report. युद्ध का अभी मैं कुछ स्पेसिफिकली बोलने का विषय है ऐसे मैं समझती नहीं हूँ. एक मिनट. युद्ध का अभी बातचीत चल रही है अमेरिका और ईरान के बीच में. क्या जल्दी से कुछ निष्कर्ष होगा, समझौता होगा या ये ऐसे ही चलेगा? अभी तो वो सैंक्शन नहीं है. हम किसी से भी तेल मंगवा सकते हैं, खरीद सकते हैं. सो वो सैंक्शन नहीं है, हालात कंटिन्यू हो रही है और बातचीत भी चल रही है. हम थोड़ा वेट करके देखते हैं, उसके बाद बोल पाएंगे. What is that got to do with elections?
मैम, आपने बात की कि ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन बहुत ज़रूरी है एआई के दौर में. सिर्फ एक कमेंट लेना चाहेंगे. बहुत से लोगों का थोड़ा सा विश्वास भी डगमगाया जो हमने नॉट स्टेट बैंक, इट्स अ वेरी सिक्योर बैंक, लॉट ऑफ सिस्टम्स आर चेक, बट इन अदर बैंक्स व्हिच मेड न्यूज़ लाइक IDFC फर्स्ट और मे बी कोटक महिंद्रा, जहाँ पर बड़े बड़े फ्रॉड्स की बात आई, उन फ्रॉड्स को आप किस तरह से देखते हैं एक प्रोटेक्शन के तौर पर?
स्टेट बैंक आपने जो बताया वो सही है. स्टेट बैंक अच्छा सा प्रोटेक्शन के साथ चल रही है. ज़्यादातर हमारी बैंक 99% सही ही चल रही है. इनफैक्ट आई वुड से 100%. मगर जो विषय आपने उदाहरण के नाते बता रही हो वो टेक्नोलॉजी का विषय नहीं है. टेक्नोलॉजी को दुरुपयोग करते हुए एक आध व्यक्ति, चाहे वो बैंक वाले हो, चाहे वो बाहर वाले हो, चाहे वो सरकार में काम करने वाले हो, इन तीनों का तालमेल और इन तीनों का एकजुट हो करके बैंक का या सिस्टम को गेम करते हुए ये सब हुआ है. मैं एकदम टेक्नोलॉजी ठीक नहीं है इसके कारण हुआ है ऐसे बोल नहीं सकती. इसीलिए बैंक हमारे भारत देश में एकदम अच्छा सा टेक्नोलॉजी में सिक्योर है, कोई किसी का दिक्कत नहीं। जो विषय आपने उतारे उसके लिए जांच हो गया है, एक में ख़त्म हो गया, दूसरे में एक्शन जांच चल रही है और एक्शन भी तुरंत उठा रहे हैं बैंक और सरकार भी, हरियाणा सरकार इन दैट केस। सो वो ठीक है, वो पूरे बैंकिंग सेक्टर के ऊपर प्रश्न चिन्ह खड़े रखने वाले बात नहीं है। No. Today our NPAs, gross or net, is at the lowest ever. इसीलिए asset quality का कोई विषय ही नहीं।
Madam, is the government considering allowing banks who incur so much, who have to provide for, put capital for these UPI payments, payment players also, there has been a long pending request that certain MDR of different type, on certain transaction category, is MDR being thought about going ahead?
That's the last bit of your question is what you wanted instead of this entire story. If there's anything, I'll tell you. Thank you.
Fine.
All right, that's the FM speaking there, weighing in on the US-Iran situation and more. But let's move on and get going with the show and resume the questions with the questions that you have been sending to us. Murli Mohan is now writing in from Bengaluru. He says that he's bought 100 shares of Fortis Health at a buying price of 960 and 100 shares of Coforge. Okay, now he's joined us on the live phone line. He'll take the question himself now. So Murli Mohan, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning. Tell us what's your question.
Yeah, good morning, ma'am. Thanks for the opportunity. I have three queries. As you mentioned, I have 100 quantities of Fortis Healthcare at a price of 960, and I have 100 quantities of Coforge at 1750, and I have Rico Auto 5,000 quantities at a price of 75. So I just want to know the outlook for next 2 years. I can average Coforge if required, but I'm not going to average Fortis and Rico at this moment. I want to know the outlook for next 2 years, ma'am, on this.
Okay, Avinash, I'll come to you. He wants to hold these shares for the next 2 years. Let's begin with Coforge. Interestingly, he is willing to average in on Coforge. What's your view on the IT pack in general? Those IT names have corrected fair bits on the valuation front. While they look good as far as the valuations are concerned, but because of course, the AI disruption going ahead, would you really suggest betting on Coforge in the long run from the mid-cap space?
Yeah, definitely. I think in the longer run, Coforge should do well. But see, my suggestion is that it's better that now, since the Q4 result season has started, let the numbers come out. Let us understand the new management commentary, for the current financial year. And once we get to know that, I think there will be better clarity. So I think he should definitely average, but I think he should probably, allocate say 15-20% funds as of now. And obviously, once the Q4 numbers are out, after that, he could add fresh positions.
Okay, so that's the view coming in on Coforge. But let's get going then. We have Vishwanathan Nair, who is written to us from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He's holding about 300 shares of Sula Vineyards at 282 and SW Solar, that is at 301 rupees per share. He is asking for a recommendation on both these counters. Sterling and Wilson Solar at 301. Kunal, what will your view be on this and Sula Vineyards?
So Sula Vineyards is something which I think has fallen very sharply. It's trading at 170 levels thereabouts. I would suggest that either switch from this stock to maybe something else in the same space. You might want to look at United Spirits, but I think a better performing name could be Radico. That's a stock which has done reasonably well for itself on the medium to long term charts. And that's a name which I would probably believe could probably hold a lot of potential if the Alcobev space entirely has to start moving up higher. Sterling Wilson Solar, I would recommend a hold. The stock is on the verge of a breakout about the 200-day moving average. The breakout level is around 230 mark for the stock price. It's trading very close towards these kind of levels at the current juncture. So I would recommend a hold as of now on Sterling Wilson Solar. And in case if the stock breaks above this 230 barrier on, say, weekly closing basis, then we might look at a point where the stock may rally up quickly towards 255 to even 275. So I would recommend a hold on this one.
Right, so that's the view coming in. Let's move on to the next question by Khurshid from Delhi. He says he wants to invest 1 lakh in a power sector Please address two good counters. Okay, Avinash, I will come to you. Power sector that is of course in demand, and power sector has been in focus for a while, and of course given the summers that will pan out for us, power sector will be in focus going ahead as well. So he has 1 lakh rupees. He wants to know two good stock names within the power space.
Yeah, I think he could look at, I think IEX as a platform business. So, this stock has corrected significantly. So, this could be a good opportunity. And the second stock could be KEC International. See, they are basically a large power transmission player, operate not only in India as well as abroad. Have a very strong order book of almost 3,000 crores. So I think here KEC could be a good opportunity. The stock has corrected from higher levels. And I think keep a time frame of at least 12 to 15 months. I think the power sector, both on the generation side as well as on the distribution side, definitely I think should give good results. But I think you need to stay invested at least for the medium term.
Invested with a medium-term time horizon, that's the word coming in. But that's all the time we have on this edition of the show. Avinash and Kunal, thank you so much for taking your time out and addressing all our viewer queries. But on that note, we need to slip into a very short break. We'll discuss a few stock-specific movers on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. You're tuned into Buy Now Sell Now, and let's shift the focus to the earnings corner. Then we are right in the thick of the earnings season, and most IT companies have now reported their numbers. So how has the sector really performed, and what is the outlook ahead? Let's go across to my colleague Snehi, who's standing by with all the details. Over to you, Snehi.
Well, yes, so largely if I have to sum up the IT earnings in Q4, I would say it's been a muted quarter, a soft quarter across the board for most of the companies. A one-word verdict for all of the nifty IT companies. You have inline set of numbers from TCS, mixed from Wipro, looking very weak and bleak from HCL Tech, mixed set from Tech Mahindra, and largely inline to soft-ish for Infosys. If I have to sum up the quarter that we've seen, it's been a mixed set of numbers reflecting a sector navigating macroeconomic uncertainty, geopolitical tensions, and a gradual pivot towards artificial intelligence. At least this is the commentary that we've heard from most of the managements. The March quarter earnings underscored a clear trend. Now, while demand remains resilient in pockets, there are global headwinds such as tariffs and the ongoing Iran conflict that are weighing on decision-making time for some of the top clients of these IT companies, and that has also reflected through their earnings. On the dollar revenue front, the stress is visible across the board. Let's take a look at some of the more metrics that are over here. The constant currency growth, if I have to see that, 1.2% for TCS, almost flat for Wipro, a very bleak negative 3.3% coming in for HCL Tech, 0.6% for Tech Mahindra, and a decline of 1.3% for Infosys. Remember, Infosys was a decline in the previous quarter as well. So this 1.3% number is an improvement from there, but still it's a decline for Infosys on the constant currency front. Let's talk about the EBIT margin number. 25.3% from TCS, in line with our estimates. Wipro at 17.3% has seen a massive expansion and a beat versus our estimates. HCL Tech has seen a decline at 16.54%. Tech Mahindra has seen an expansion at 13.8%. It was 13.1% in the previous quarter, so looking good. And Infosys also at 21%. We were expecting 21.1, 21.2, so largely in line with what we are seeing, but a decline on a sequential basis. Next up, moving on, let's talk about the next metric, and let's take a look at what the attrition rate is. Continues to be between 12 and 13.5 to roughly 14% across the board. So these are the attrition levels, voluntary attrition numbers coming in across the board. Let's talk about the TCV. TCV deal win for TCS has dominated across the sector. $12 billion of TCV, highest across these 5 names in Q4. For Wipro at 3.5%, it was sequentially up 6%. HCL Tech saw a cut of about 35.6% at $1.9 billion compared to $3 billion where it was in the previous quarter. For Tech Mahindra, this number is largely in line with estimates, and for Infosys, it's a cut of 33.3% on a sequential basis. Lastly, talking about the AI revenue, 28% of coming in for TCS and 6% of the overall revenue contribution coming in from AI for HCL Tech. The two companies have explicitly reported their AI revenue. Lastly, let's also take a look at what the guidance has been. If I have to sum up the guidance, for TCS, they've said that demand is stabilizing. They will sustain focus on AI and emerging tech. For Wipro, they have reduced the guidance points to -2 to 0% from 0 to 2% earlier. And the services revenue is between $2.5 billion to $2.6 billion. That's the range that they have given. For HCL Tech, the company revenue growth in FY26 is now seen between 1 to 4% in constant currency, which was earlier 4 to 4.5% in constant currency in FY26. So a reduction over there. Services revenue has also been reduced. EBIT margins are seen between 17.5 to 18.5%. Let's talk about Tech Mahindra. All they've said is that they continue to commit to their FY27 goals. And for Infosys, the growth guidance between 1.5 to 3.5% for FY27. Operating margin kept at the same level as FY26 at guidance between 20 and 22%. So that wraps up the entire quarter we've seen of IT earnings. In one word, it's been a muted quarter yet again.
Quarter yet again, that's the word coming in on the entire IT sector. Snehi, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. But shifting focus then, and in an exclusive chat with Geeta Gopinath, my colleague Sajid Mangat discussed the impact of blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and the kind of impact it is likely to have on the Indian rupee. Let's take a look at that conversation.
So I'm looking at the kinds of capital flows, the behavior of capital flows into India, because those are not very strong. There has been pressure on the rupee. As the deficit grows because of this higher import bill from these energy imports, you will certainly have more pressure in terms of the balance of payments and therefore more pressure on the currency. I think given that this is a fundamental shock, we should expect to see that, that the currency would depreciate, and that would be a very reasonable thing to happen.
And in the past few weeks, we have seen the Reserve Bank of India taking stern measures to stabilize the rupee, and in many cases, get the rupee back from 95. Do you think that it's going to be a tough task for the central bank to bring in some stability for rupee?
If there is evidence that the exchange rate depreciation, the weakening of the rupee, is de-anchoring inflation expectations, or if it is generating financial turbulence, and you can see that in certain kinds of spreads, market spreads, then of course there is an argument to intervene so to prevent that from happening. But in the absence of those forces, and there's at this point not that much evidence of either of them playing a role, letting the currency depreciate is the best way to insulate the economy. Again, of course, as any central bank would do, paying very close attention to any kind of speculative behavior in the currency market is going to be important to make sure that it's not speculation-driven depreciation of the currency. And there are ways to do it. There are very different metrics to look at to figure out whether that's indeed going on. So some of the steps that the RBI has taken is in line with preventing that kind of speculative behavior. And of course, that's well taken.